Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to InnerViews, the podcast where we dive deep into the realms of therapy, healing, and intentional living. I'm your guide on this adventure, Ivory. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey with me? Whether you're navigating the complexities of trauma, embracing intentional parenting, or seeking self-help strategies, this podcast is your sanctuary. InnerViews is not just a podcast, it's a community. A safe space where stories unfold and healing takes center stage. Your story matters. And here, courageous storytelling is the heartbeat of our existence. We'll be exploring powerful themes like healing, navigating the intricacies of foster care, the strength found in survival, the beauty of reclamation, and the pure bliss of joy. So if you're ready to join hands with a community that understands, subscribe now. Let's walk this path together because the journey toward understanding and well-being starts right here, right now. Welcome to InnerViews, where every step is a celebration of your resilience and a testament to the incredible strength within you. Let's make this journey unforgettable. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of InnerViews. I am Ivory Bennett, your host, and I'm super grateful that you've tuned in today, wherever you are. And today I have the honor and privilege of having our guest, Lakievia Lucky Johnson. So I'm going to introduce y'all to her a little bit. Lakievia Lucky Johnson has an MBA, a PMP, a CSPO. Her pronouns are she and hers, and she is a doctoral student at Liberty University, a project manager at the Institute for Functional Medicine, a mom, a sister, and an entrepreneur. She has been a child advocate for over 24 years and is slowly building Freedom from Foster Care, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping foster care alumni thrive as parents. Having spent the majority of her time in foster care living separately from her brother and sister, she is familiar with the additional challenges of being a foster child, which result from weakened connections with siblings. So welcome, and thank you for being here, Lakievia.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello.
Hi. So the audience just heard a lot about your academic pursuits, your professional background. Can you give us a little bit of tidbits about who are you when you go home from work? What do you like to eat? What do you like to do? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite flower?
Oh, okay. So I guess allow me to reintroduce myself. I am no longer a doctoral student. I am a doctoral candidate.
Congratulations.
So that's exciting. Thank you. Thank you. I love to eat tacos. It's funny you asked that because I actually just had that for lunch too. So I love to eat tacos. I love Mexican food, quesadillas for sure. My favorite color, I have two, purple and blue. I think it just changes. So today, purple.
Yes, it's a real.
What I like to do for fun, I love to listen to music. I love to watch movies. I'm definitely a movie buff. As a doctoral candidate, my time is kind of limited because I do a lot of reading and things like that.
Understandably.
So I'm learning to love reading a lot more, and not just the reading that I've always had to do in school, but just leisurely. I've been encouraged. Stop reading stuff that is real, nonfiction and related to your work. Start reading stuff that's more fun. Give your brain a break and stuff. So doing that as well. And am I missing a question you asked?
No, but you know what? I keep thinking about two things. I'm going to Mexico in a few hours, so I'm excited to eat some tacos. I'll eat some tacos for you.
Oh, wow. Have fun. That's awesome. What part of Mexico?
Tulum. I'm meeting actually one of our little cousins, like we talked about before, and she was in foster care too. Her name is Jazz. I love her so much. Shout out to Jazz.
Oh,
She's
hi,
on our
Jazz.
podcast, and she's a national advocate just like us. And so
Oh,
I'm excited to spend
wow.
time with her in Tulum, Mexico. And the other thing is, it is so real about changing your favorite colors.
Thank
When,
you.
when I was younger, purple was one of my favorite colors, but now yellow is mine. And
Mm,
surprisingly, there's a really specific color within the family of blue. It's not like just blue itself. It's more of like an oceanic, almost teal blue that I really, really love. And I have it
mm.
all around my house, and I didn't realize. I'm like, well, this must be a favorite color.
Color you like. Yeah.
Yeah, so totally. But I wanted to ask you more specifically, what is either one of your favorite books that's not academic and or one of your favorite authors? Because you made me think about mine. So I'm curious about yours.
There are a lot of different authors that I like. I have to say, really, what comes to mind right now is Their Eyes Were Watching God as a favorite book by
Stop.
Zora Neale Hurston.
Stop. Stop it. Who told you to say that?
Did my Spidey powers kick in just now? Is
They
that your
absolutely
favorite book?
stop it. No, it's not my favorite book, but Zora Neale Hurston is one of my favorite authors. And
Really?
yes, when I become a doctoral student, fingers crossed, I want to
Oh,
study anthropology because of her. I didn't realize she was an anthropologist. Like, she did anthropology and she was also able to combine writing and her beautiful artistry into that. And so
wow.
I love Zora. I would even probably name one of my daughters Zora. I love her so much. Their
Wow.
eyes are watching God. I love that movie. I love the book. I love the story. I love the characters. So that's amazing. How do you feel about Octavia Butler?
Girl, I love Kendrick. I have to tell you the story about Kendrick.
That's
So I
sweet.
was a writing tutor, like real quick. I have to tell you this though. So I had never heard of her before, never heard of Kendrick. I was a writing tutor. And to give you some context, when I got this paper from this student, I had probably read over 250 essays.
Oh, yes.
So got this paper from this girl and was just like hooked on her paper. And she was using past and present tense in the same sentence. But please don't take it that way. And I'm like, you can't do that. So like in my head, I'm like, you cannot do this. But whatever you're doing, this is working for you. Like I understand she did a book report on Kindred. And
Wow.
so she was talking about Kindred. And so like however she was writing this, it was just working. And I told her in her feedback, I was like, you know what? You're not supposed to write with past and present tense in the same sentence, but what you're doing is working. And this is fine. Like it's perfect. And I understood that she was talking about people going back and forward in the past. And I thought it was just one of the most amazing papers I had ever read up until that point,
Yeah.
and loved that paper so much that I actually read the book, watched the whole series, like binged it, because I was like, I have to see what she's talking about because
Yes.
this is not possible, but this is working.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is now I'm
Yeah.
like, send me the paper. I want to read.
Probably deleted now, but look, it was like so phenomenal. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that's
And I
it's
love the book. So yeah.
she's I feel like she's kind of a prolific, even like psychic writer, low key. For those of you who are unaware, pick up some Octavia Butler. I think it's the Parable series, and it is exactly talking to what we're going through in 2025 right now. It's really
My manager told me that. She said,
if you haven't read the Parable series, read that and then we could talk about it because
wow.
it's like, wait a minute, did she have a time machine? Like, did she come and visit and then go back and write about it? It's really,
Wow.
I really, really highly, highly recommend it because I think she even wrote the
Okay.
series. Forgive me because I'm not super fresh on the facts, but I think the series is almost as old as me or a little bit older. So I was born in 90. So I think these books were written in like the 80s or the early 90s.
Wow.
She did not have any necessarily direct insight into what would be
Hmm.
happening now, but it's like reading what's happening now. So on the side, let's get back to it. We're in interviews. We're not having a
Mm.
conversation in my house. Even though,
We should, for sure.
are you still there, audience? Let us know. All right, let's get into these questions, Lakievia, because you have so much to share. So, our first topic is around family separation and sibling connection. So, you've shared the nuanced reality of sibling relationships in foster care, and sometimes connection doesn't mean cohabitation. How do you think we can better honor the complexity of sibling bonds without forcing unhealthy reunification?
I'm a fan of counseling and facilitated communication, but cultural sensitivity is key. It's important for us to understand the family dynamic. All families are different, and the trauma associated with family separation can change the family even more. So we need to be mindful of that.
That is the more I dig into the work of being an advocate, and I've been doing this for like 17 years,
Wow.
the more I realize we need to heal families. It's so much more than removing children from their homes. It's so much more than addressing addiction. The families need healing and they need help regenerating healthy connections. They need help understanding what it means to be healthy. And of
Agree.
course, we can tie that back to so many things systemically and institutionally, especially in the context of marginalized identities. But like, it's
Agree.
really, really about family health and infrastructure. And a lot of people, especially in the last, I would say, probably What I was watching American Gangster last night. So
Mhm. With Denzel Washington, right?
but
Is
Denzel,
that
oh my God, yes, I love
okay?
Denzel
Okay.
Washington. Oh, respect to his wife, but he is so attractive.
He's coming out with a new movie here soon.
I
That'll be
love him so
interesting.
much. He's such a great actor too. And he started out as a stage actor. This is a side note, but I used to do theater. And so one of my directors,
Cool.
yeah, she went to see him live and she was like, he is a fantastic stage actor. And it's just, for those of you who don't know acting and theater, it can be much harder to be a stage actor because the cameras aren't zoomed in on your face. So you have to be more dramatic and more nuanced. And every day, every night, every show is something new and different. So there's that. But I only say that to say the drug epidemic of the 70s, it was the 1970s, I believe, really did a fantastic job of quickly annihilating a lot of families. There were a lot
Mhm.
of children who were born who ended up with their parents no longer being here. There were a lot of children who were born with health complications that led to repeated cycles of addiction and abuse and unhealthiness. A lot of children filtered into the child welfare system specifically from that incident of the crack epidemic in the 1970s. And so, but even before that,
Mhm.
we can go further
Mhm.
back. We can go back
Yep.
to Jim Crow. We can go back
Mhm.
to the 1920s Great Depression. We can go back to after slavery. We can go back to
Yep.
slavery.
Mhm.
But more
Mhm.
recently, and then to put it in greater context and outside of the context of being Black or African American, we can look at the opioid epidemic right now and kind of see how that is fracturing families and
Mhm.
impacting children entering and staying engaged in the child welfare system and in related systems. And so I say all that to say we need to help families be stronger and healthier.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've learned going through what I've gone through and having my kids back and things like that, that reunification process is a whole nother story, which is a side of the coin I had not necessarily seen or understood. But then being a mom, having gone through something very similar, my kids coming back, like we don't know each other, we have to rebuild. And that is something that I have now realized we're not talking about enough. Like we're mad when kids are taken away. We're blaming the parents. We're excited when the kids get back, when the parents get back with their parents, and then the ball is dropped. And like, what's happening? How is the family rebuilding? And that's not anything that I can say prior to now. I was even in rooms where conversations about that were taking place. And I can say that in my experience in the foster care system and seeing people going back with their parents and me going back and different things like that, nobody was there to help sustain us. Nobody was there to help us reheal, to help rebuild our relationships. And so that hurts even that much more. And it just crumbles the whole entire family if we're not able to like really reunify in a way that rebuilds our family. I mean, there's even not even a point to reunification. And I think it's designed that way, really. But, that's another story.
But I saw a quote the other day, and in summarization, it said, long story short, we cry and complain about no longer having the village or the community, but we're unwilling to rebuild and be the village in the community, right? And I feel like what you're saying touches on that idea. Like so many people who are not necessarily elders, but we are in a position to start building things, even if we don't have
Mm-hmm.
the systemic, institutional, or financial power necessarily, we are still in a position to be leaders and
Mm-hmm.
to be the beginnings of those legacy things. And
Mm-hmm.
not enough of us are stepping up to say, okay, we don't have a village. We need the village. We're going to start the village because it's difficult work.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
humbling work. You don't get
Yeah.
paid to show up for people in community a lot of the time. People don't
Yeah.
acknowledge you or give you flowers or awards or recognition
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
being the person who says, we have this problem. Here's the solution. I'm going to spearhead it. A lot of us are unwilling to make those sacrifices. And to be honest, and this is something I'm
Mm.
learning having become a new parent and soon an adoptive parent, being in the village, being in the community, it's annoying AF. People are difficult.
And it's hard.
And it's
All of our situations are different and it can cause more conflict amongst the community that
conversation.
we need to bring together.
Yes, people can have their opinions
Yeah.
and it definitely is
Yeah.
it's triggering to say the least. It is incredibly triggering.
Yeah.
And I will say this, it is hard because a lot of us, again, don't have those elders who have laid that foundation. We don't have those elders who have shown us this is what it means to be a leader in the context of family and community. We
Hmm.
don't have those people that we can go to and talk to in abundance. And if for those of us who do have those individuals, they're so far and few between, they
Hmm.
might not feel accessible, or we don't want to, overly depend on, rely upon them, boundaries and things like that. I say it to say, yes, we do need to rebuild the family structure. And within that comes the village and the community part of it. Enough of us are stepping up to rebuild and be the community and the village that we needed and that we cried about.
I can relate. And I would say everything that you just described is part of the reason why people aren't stepping up. So I don't necessarily want to put that responsibility on a person directly and say it's your fault that you're not stepping up. Because when we look at the way the environment has created a space to make us feel safe to step up,
Right.
it hasn't done that. And so it's not then our fault for not stepping up because we're afraid, or because, we feel like we can't make that change. You asked me some questions about like retaliation. You asked me some questions about doing that inner work and stuff like that. So we're going to get a little bit more into that.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be an important conversation to have because one of the things that I experienced being in the foster care system was all this stuff being dropped on me and me being the person who's responsible for everything. You asked me about accountability too, like being responsible for every single thing that happened in my life. And I'm like, wait
Yeah.
a minute now. You put this door right here with this lock on this in this chain, like not me. Where's the key? You know what I mean? Like, give me the key. I'll do that. Like, that's not my fault, right? But I think it does become my fault when I have the key and I have that courage and I have the permission, and I don't always need permission, but I have that, even if it's intrinsic permission to use that key to open that door and to say bye. Like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, type of thing. Then that's my fault. But like if I don't have all the stuff, and it's intentionally blocking me or like intentionally being kept from me so that I can't build that community, like
Right.
that's not our fault. I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, no, I don't want to sound like I'm blaming people, but I am asking people to have a greater sense of responsibility and accountability. Fear is a really big issue, especially
Hmm.
with lived experience. And I
Hmm.
have an incredible bias with it because I've been put in a position in life a lot to where I just can't, my fear can't hold me back. I think the biggest thing for me has been like living with a chronic illness and dealing with like literally life and death every single day. I just can't
Mm.
allow fear to dictate my behavior as much as other people might be allowed to do it. And so I'm able to dismiss it more. So, like, I'm someone
Wow.
who is able to just run and jump because
Mm.
that's kind of the only option it feels like that I have. And so I have a really big bias when it comes to fear and seeing that as like a boundary or a barrier to success, but it is so real. And since moving home, I see how it operates within not only
Mm.
individuals, but within groups of individuals too. So that's a very valid thing.
Yeah.
I also want to uplift this for those of us who are listening, but might not have like a historical context too. Our ancestors, and not even the ones who have passed away, the ones who are still alive,
Mm.
they were not born into times that were easy. They were not born into times that had much luxury, economic mobility,
Girl, say it.
safety.
So lucky.
My grandmother, my aunts and uncles, even cousins of my
Mm.
generation had direct experiences with the Ku Klux Klan. One of my grandfathers was a slave. We are very privileged to be in this time in this day. And so we have to
You're
acknowledge their strength,
right.
and that they had fear too. They saw lynched bodies hanging off trees,
Mm. Fruit.
range fruit, and that's not to negate all the people that we've seen be lynched in the ways that
Mm.
have been lynched today in modern day history, right?
Hmm.
But they were fearful too. And they still showed up.
Mm.
And they were our grandmothers and they were our aunties and they were our uncles who were always reliable,
Mm.
who were always available, who were always willing to pour love into us, even if we only saw them once or twice a year, even if we only get to go visit them down south every other summer. They still showed up and they were still able to be pillars of our families in some capacity. And for those
Mm.
who don't have that experience or that knowledge of that being in your family, I'm so sorry to you. But for those of you who do understand, it didn't come for free and it didn't come easily for them to show up. We have to have a little bit more accountability and we have to acknowledge our fears ask for help with it, and still move forward. Because if you are building a village or a family, you're a pioneer. And what do pioneers have to do? They have to cut down things, they have to make their own.
Mm-hmm.
It does not exist. And that is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all ever played, what was that game? I was actually really young when it came out, but there was this game where you had to like go across the country in these wagons.
Oregon Trail.
You
I used to love that game.
had to do, like, I feel like I talked about this on another episode.
Girl, you get diseases and stuff. Like I remember
Yes, you
playing
get
that in the
diseases
fourth
and
grade all
stuff.
the time.
And you gotta make your own path. And you have
Yes.
to break off
Yep.
sometimes, and people attack you
Oh my gosh.
unexpectedly,
She
and you
said
run
the
out of
Oregon
food,
Trail, y'all.
and you run out of water. Long story short, a lot of us who have
Woo.
lived experience, we are on the freaking Oregon Trail, are we not?
Oh gosh.
We are
Always.
Oregon Trail.
Always.
We don't have our
Yeah.
parents leading the path. We don't have a family of wagons behind us. It is just us. And I'm not asking you to
Mhm.
pick yourself up by your bootstraps, because fuck that mentality. That's not what we're talking about. That's something completely
Mm.
else and something completely problematic. But what I am saying is
Mm.
that it is the time to be brave. If you want and need a village, you have to start it.
And we can find it. First of all, it's such a blessing to have you in this space and for you to share your voice. And I'm just feel blessed to be in this space with you because we need to have someone like you who is fearless, who will help encourage and motivate people who may not be so much so. So I want to say that first. Next, I want to say I'm really happy that you are talking about how some of our family members have stepped up to support us. You know, there are a lot of grandparents out there raising children
Yeah.
because they have to, right? Not because they just decide they want to or they want to be a problem. But like my grandmother, so when my mom first got sick, you know, my mom, she had HIV. So when my mom got sick, my grandmother, she lived 45 minutes away. She worked really years. She retired from a paper manufacturing plant. She lived 45 minutes away. When my mom was really, really sick and couldn't really hold her head up, I don't think a lot of us, I certainly didn't really know what was going on. Even then, people were still learning about AIDS and stuff like that. My grandmother would drive after working 12-hour overnight shifts. She would drive 45 minutes one way to come to our house to make sure that we were up to go to school because my mom was not able to do it. And then when it got so bad where my mom needed to have somebody there with her, my grandmother moved us in with my mom, who couldn't even take care of herself, me and my two siblings. So the three of us, a whole family of four, my grandmother moved into her 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom trailer that she had already shared with my mom's brother and 4 of his kids and his wife. So here we are, like 10 people in this trailer, you know, where my grandmother, though, was stepping up. And at that time, when you're a kid, like I was 11 years old, when you're a kid, you may not really recognize that stuff. But when you grow up and you become an adult and you think about even now, would I drive 45 minutes one way every single day? And I mean, not even at nighttime. We're talking about she was there at like 6:30 in the morning. Like, yo, you be up. It's time for school. Out at the bus, 7 a.m. After working 12 hours, girl. Like, so what you just said, like, definitely resonated with me because that is building family. That is what family does, right? And they don't think about that was hard. They think about I need to step up. Somebody has to be there, right? So like, and I have to be there because nobody else is. So I'm glad that you said all that.
Thank
And
you.
you're right. We're lucky. We have everything at our fingertips. There's like no excuse for us not to do something or anything if we want
Yeah,
to.
we're lucky in that we just have different circumstances. Like a lot of us don't have to work with our hands anymore. And it's not,
Girl, we don't even have to work in the buildings anymore.
we don't even have to hand wash our clothes anymore.
Oh gosh.
I would love to actually grow my own food, but we're not growing our own food and tending to our own gardens, most of us.
We don't have to.
I mean,
we should be though.
we should be. I would love to talk about homesteading.
Gosh, that's another conversation.
But also like healthy seeds and non-GMO seeds. Like, okay, I digress. But I want to first of all give flowers to all the people in our families who stepped up. And I don't
amen.
necessarily I want to give them space for their humanity because it's easy to like separate their humanity from what they did for us and their impact. So I'm sure at some point she thought it was hard and all the other people thought it was hard. But what was even harder was her love for you and for her daughter and for her family. And she valued that over the fear and the exhaustion and the hardness.
Right.
And that's
Oh,
all
you
I'm
make me
asking
cry
people to
saying
do.
that because you're so right.
I mean,
like,
no, but people loved us. There's this quote that I keep saying in my head. I have a really strong connection to my ancestors, those who I've met and those who I have not. One thing I know for sure is they did not play about us. And the second thing I know for sure is that I am still living on the prayers of my grandmothers. People, I don't know.
Same.
grandmothers, but I know for sure that all of their
Hmm.
prayers are protecting me, the ones that I met.
Uh,
Mhm. And so they were strong women, and we're out here complaining, and we don't. I do. When I was a child, I actually did have to wash my clothes by hand because that's how poor I was when I lived with my mom when I wasn't in foster care. But I don't now. I have a washer and a dryer in my house that I own. Like that is a
Congratulations on being a homeowner.
so much. Like that is a privilege, right? And the same goes back
Hmm.
to my baby who I've gotten earlier this year. Is it hard? Hell yeah, it's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat that shit. Is he cute? He's fucking cute. He smells so good, but this shit is hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
But what I could
yeah.
do is sit with the idea of like, I love this child. He's in my family. And one day when this child grows up and he's 20 and 30 years old, and he's wondering why he spent his time in foster care or living with a family that he's not biologically connected to or related to, thinking that no one in his family cared about
Cared
him.
about.
What I
Yep.
live with. That is what I could
Yep.
live with. So did I disrupt my hot girl summer and my hot girl life to become a mom without having a husband? Hell yeah, I did, because that's what my ancestors did, and that's what I want to do too, and that's how I want to show up in the community. Now, can I do it again? Not without a husband, not without a husband. That's the only baby I have the capacity for.
Girl, well, you switched over for Cool Kid Summer. You know, that's what Disney's like using this whole summer. It's Cool Kid Summer.
Ain't
So
nothing
that's what
cool
you
about
did.
this summer. This is terrorist toddler summer. Okay, and I'm sure the next summer is gonna be worse.
Oh,
Terroristic toddler number
yes.
two.
Yes.
I got a toddler, honey. He's not even fully a toddler yet. He's entered the stage early. He is advanced.
Oh, well, he's with you. So that's a good thing because he should be. You just getting started.
He's safe. His nervous system is just now calming down a little bit. So I am in
Oh,
for a ride. I am sure. But I only say
oh.
that to say is like, we have to pick our hearts, and living outside of community and village, that's hard, but also overcoming your fears is hard. So you really just have to pick your hearts. All right. So retaliation in the system. You've lived with so many parents fear that their children could be weaponized in family court. What do you want system leaders and child advocates to know about how retaliation and manipulation show up in custody and foster care decisions?
I really like this question, Ivory, because you said system leaders. I struggle with discussing problems I cannot hold anyone accountable for, especially those problems within the court and family policing industries, because in those spaces, I was never encouraged to name the person or people who are responsible for the problems and injustices. I witnessed, if they were representatives of the systems, I wasn't allowed to say who did it, right? Like, so it's always just like the system. So now when people make questions, like now when people make comments like the system is messed up, I always ask questions like, well, what is the system? Or the system is not, or I'll say like, the system is not a person. People have done these things. So who are we talking about, right? So this question really touched me because in this question, you are asking about system leaders, which is a description that actually attaches human beings to a non-human structure, which, I absolutely love. So with that said, teaching people to describe problems using language that doesn't associate the actions of human beings is the first and main way manipulation shows up in custody and foster care decisions. When we talk about the tragedies of adverse custody decisions, foster care placements, and even poor foster care experiences, we might say something like, the system failed. Yet, when those poor decisions and experiences are being defended by system leaders, and to continue using your word, we will certainly hear a person being associated with their failure when the person to blame isn't a representative or employee of that organizational entity. So, for example, the parent failed or the child was. This is a form of gaslighting. And gaslighting is always associated with manipulation. In addition to manipulation and gaslighting, coercion shows up. And based on personal experience, the moment a person shows they are not going to be manipulated, coerced, or gaslit and speaks up against it, they are targeted for retaliation. So, the truth is, many system leaders don't like to hear the word no.
Had to take a deep
Mm,
because
I felt that.
there's so much I could say about that. And
Mhm.
in terms of calling people out and naming things, there is a caveat to that. And I'm sure we would be willing to talk to people about how they can get justice by directly calling people out. But there is a strategy to
Mm.
it as
Yes.
well.
You have to do a whole show on that, girl. 'Cause I need that strategy.
There is a strategy on calling people out, and that is one of the reasons why Youth Voices Rising and Fostering Media Connections exists. There's the media to call out people, places, and things that have done you harm, but also
Mm,
suggest ways in which they can make it right. And
mm,
so, for those of you who are out there listening, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying Judge so and so did this and that resulted in this, or my caseworker did this and that resulted in this. However, there is a strategy to that, and understand there can be consequences to that as well. So
the
again, pick your heart.
consequences.
Pick your heart because you can stay silent and let them treat you however you want to be treated. Or you can be brave and be strategic and use what you have available, such as the media, to
Mm.
share your story and leverage change through that means. Let's go ahead and move on though, because I've already gotten us off task
Mhm.
too many times today. All right. Doing everything right and still losing.
Whew.
You took every step, degree after degree, certifications, appeals, and still faced unjust barriers. What do you want people to understand about what it feels like to do everything right and still lose your children?
Two things. First, if that's the case, right? So you do everything right, still lose your kids, right? What happened to you was illegal
Mm,
and your constitutional rights were violated.
mm,
Choose your heart, right? I won my appeal. I wrote that by myself. That was hard. I won my appeal because I effectively did the research on this exact issue. So I
mm,
can definitively say if this happened to you, first and foremost, your rights were violated,
mm,
period, right? Second, what do we mean by doing everything right?
mm,
Having been in the foster care system, which is why I did everything I did, which included keeping a thorough paper trail,
mm,
there's truly no right or wrong. All there is what the people around you in the foster care system who make decisions for you tell you to do, right?
mm,
That's it. And that can be right as in true, moral, legal, ethical, or wrong as in abusive, oppressive, illegal, immoral, and unethical. Nevertheless, I feel this, right? Rest assured that when you always do the right thing, as Martin Luther King Jr. taught, and as my mom taught me, they can never say you were the problem. So, where there's a will, there's a way. But when it comes to someone's desire to hurt you, don't make it easy for them. I think that's just really the bottom line. Like, don't make it easy.
We're touching on some deep stuff. We are really,
Mm,
because it also comes back to that personal accountability. And it's easy, especially in the line of advocacy, to talk about the systemic and the institutional issues and problems. Like we get that. And sometimes that can feel very far away from humanity, right? And there's no necessarily person attached to those big ideas in theory. But when we go back to self accountability, what are you as a parent? What can you control? And how are you
hmm.
controlling it? And
Yeah.
it doesn't say that, what you're doing is right or wrong, but we know for darn sure some things are not going to help your case.
You're right about that now.
Like
Yeah,
we know,
definitely.
don't be smoking
Definitely.
weed in front of the courthouse before you
Uh-huh.
go in. Like there are just
Right.
you don't
Some
need to
stuff, yeah. Come
some
on now.
stuff is just obvious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we do have
Yeah.
those gray areas and things, but like again, be strategic. Like be strategic. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to one of us. I'm sure that we can give you some tips and some advice on how to be more strategic with the way that you move. But you really have to just be mindful in some regards.
Hmm.
So many things that we could talk about within that, but I don't want to get us off task.
I just gotta interject and just say one thing though.
Please,
Like
go
I
ahead,
just
go
feel like
ahead.
it's on my spirit to just say this. Like, and I am not a bad influence. I'm not encouraging people to do bad things, but I'm telling you, like, if you just have to go and like do this craziness, like, or I'm not gonna say this craziness, if you just have to go do something like that's not structured, wait until after your kids are safe. Wait until after you have your kids. Wait until you have done the things right and then do whatever you gotta do. Put your kids first.
Put your kids first, right? And I just want to be
you
abundantly
know
clear too. I am not anti-marijuana. Like I love
I was just saying, if you're gonna go smoke that blunt, wait till after you're done with all this.
wait until you're done. Go in the car. Or make sure so you don't smell
Oh God!
like diesel
Oh
and
no!
don't spray Victoria's Secret over or Axe over Target. We know what you were
Walk in the court
doing.
right afterwards. Come on, y'all. Like that's making it easy for them.
It's
Like even
making
if
it
you're not
easy for
wrong.
them. it's not
gosh.
that you're wrong. It's not that marijuana needs to be demonized. It's just that it's not the
Oh
time and
my
place.
gosh.
And if you can't put your kids first, they're going to use that against you. And
100%.
that's, I think sometimes we get caught up too much, like in the advocacy world of just like, it,
Whew.
unconditional acceptance is beautiful, but it has its time and its place. And we
Mhm.
understand that the justice system in particular has its rules and its regulations on the books and off the books. And there's
Mhm.
ways that you have to show up in order
Mhm.
to get what you get, in order to navigate and get the results that you want.
You said it. That's the word. Words,
And does it suck? Yes. Okay. So
not a choice.
become a judge and change it. But until then, understand it so that you can navigate it to the best of your ability.
Mm.
And so some things are not, they don't feel the most warm and loving. Like, should we be able to accept people who smoke weed in all places at all times? Sure. Also, I'm going to throw a caveat out there. If you're smoking weed too much and you can't remember my name after talking to me for 30 seconds, or you're not, like maybe we're relying on it a little bit too much as a coping skill. Oh,
I have no comment about what you are 100%. Keep going.
I'm just saying, cousins,
You're right. You are
y'all, I
right.
love y'all, but some of y'all smoke a little too much. And it can't
Mm.
be our only coping mechanism. And it can't be something that's more important
That's
than
right.
children. It
That's
can be
right.
more important than our babies. It can never exceed our parenting responsibilities and obligations. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
Fight me after the podcast.
None of us are perfect, right? I can think of some things that I did as a young mom that was just stupid. And thinking back now, like I should have never done that. However, when somebody is holding a fire against you and trying to take your kids from you, or your kids have already been taken, like you better act like you are perfect for right now. Act like you
Okay.
are perfect and continue to model that for your kids so that they don't end up in this situation with theirs.
And then if you want to change it, be the changes you wish to see. Become a judge. And then
Yeah.
smoke in your
Yeah.
chambers and come back out and do what the hell you do. Like, if you want to change it in that regard, change it in that regard, but also
Mhm.
understand how it operates so that you can get the results that you want to get.
That's right.
All we're trying to say. We're
Yeah.
trying to empower you to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve.
Mhm.
We digressed.
Mhm.
We're gonna get back on track. That's
Mhm.
probably gonna touch a nerve. Also, there's a lot of political correctness in that. And that is such a sticky conversation because do I want people to change for political correctness? No. But do I want them to be aware of how it shows up and how they can use it to their advantage? Yes. And so, there's the nuance of that conversation. And
That's good.
this is an extension of that, I think. All right, let's get back on task because we're not even halfway through yet. So, post systems, parenting, and healing. You're parenting now as a foster care survivor and survivor of legal injustice. How has your experience shaped the kind of mother you strive to be? And what support do you think parents like you actually need?
My primary goal is setting a positive example for my daughters. They were alienated from me and taught to believe it's okay to disrespect me and that I don't matter as a human being. But I've set boundaries to let them know I am a human and worthy of dignity and respect at all times. By telling them how I will be treated, I am continuing to set that positive example for them because I am teaching them abuse will not be tolerated. I hope that through my actions, if my daughters ever become parents and go through what I went through, or find themselves at risk of going through what I went through, they know what to do to protect and defend themselves, as you were just saying, And as a mom, and especially since my daughters are now 18 and 20, that's all I can do. As a parent, I need less stress, trust, validation to be heard, support, friendship, encouragement, and resources to both provide for my children and take care of myself in healthy ways. As a new mom, what do you need, Ivory?
Please don't get me started on that. Because listen, I am literally I'm trying to build that village stuff. And so one of the things
Mm,
I'm working on is a childcare center here. There's not enough of that available. And I was like,
mm,
oh my God, this is something that I need. This is something that could be really supportive for me. Like I have not been able to unpack my house and I've had it since February.
wow.
But it's because I work two jobs and I have a child and a dog. And
Mm,
so I just don't have the capacity to unpack my house. This is something that not only do I need, but a lot of new moms need who might or might not be child welfare engaged. There's a lot of single parents who just need a day to themselves, a morning where they can sleep in. Y'all know toddlers don't care about sleeping in. Y'all know babies don't care about.
mm,
Here's what I need since you asked.
mm.
I'm gonna put out in the universe. First of all, I
What
need
do you
a
need?
husband.
Bring it.
I need a husband.
Okay. You me too. A good one, girl. Like,
A
wait.
good one, who I find
Yeah.
attractive, holistic,
Yeah.
okay, who can pay the bills.
Holistically. That's the word right there. Yep.
Holistic attraction, because we're not just talking about physical stuff, we're talking about
No.
other stuff.
Intellectual. emotional.
Ooh,
Girl, it's got to
ooh,
be that intellectual. I
spiritual.
have to have that intellectual attraction.
Oh, you
Like, I
know
got to
what? And
have
if
it.
he listen, I have a language kink. So if he speaks other languages, honey, that's good with me too.
Likewise.
Parlez-vous français? So aside from a husband, I need to work less and still make the same amount of money, if not more.
Yes.
I need rest. I need lots of rest. And I need
Mm,
also time to work out because
mm,
exercise is critical, especially for Black women and Black health. That's what I need. And I need to not be made to feel guilty because of wanting all these things. I think a lot of time as a Black woman, people guilt me for wanting to get my nails done or my hair
yeah.
done. People guilt me for wanting a break from my baby. And I'm like,
Mm,
no, like, no, I refuse propaganda I'm not falling for, which is that, okay? I can still be a mom and still take care of myself. I can still be a mom and not want to cook. I can still be a
mm,
mom and need breaks and still love my child
mm,
and still make sure my child is healthy and safe.
mm.
So those are what I need immediately. I also need a lot of money, a large sum of money.
I love how you just had this list ready.
Let's not think about Lakievia. Listen, don't get me started because I think about what I need every single day. But not only that, I think about how can I create solutions to the things that I need, and not only just for
Mm,
myself, but for my community members. Because, like I've said before, I acknowledge that I have a lot of courage and strength that a lot of people don't. And what am I going to do with that? Because to whom much is given, much is required. And
amen.
I have a chronic illness, and that didn't even bring me down like he's bringing me down. All 30 pounds of
Mm.
terror. All right. And he's just so chunky and thick, y'all. He's growing. He gained 5 pounds since he came with me. And but yeah, I say all that to say is like, if this is something that's causing me to struggle immensely, I can only imagine how it's devastating other people who don't have access to therapy, who don't understand the importance of nutrition when dealing with
Mhm,
stress, who don't have, shout out to my sister and my best friends because they do help me. It's not as much as I need, but it's help. And then it's more help than other people have. And so if I am struggling in this capacity, and times have been dark mentally and emotionally, because I'm like, this is exhausting. I don't get that much sleep anymore. I can
mhm,
only imagine for people who don't have the resources and privileges and skills that I do. And so I think about this all answers readily available a lot because it's something I'm also trying to actively solve within the context of not only my life, but my community here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and with people we don't like.
So respect the work that we do, because it takes a special person to support people like us
Not only
and the
respect
work that we
it,
do.
that's the thing, like people like us, we need husbands who just let us lead and be the mission and the vision, but also can step in if we're having a bad day and take over because they are
Yeah.
wavelength of leadership and knowledge and capability and manifesting that. And we're not going to settle. we're,
Yep.
we do not need to settle because if we exist, they exist.
Mm,
And that is that.
mm, mm,
All right. Something that we really need to talk about. I'm a recovering perfectionist.
mm,
Did Erica Badu say she's a recovering undercover overlover?
mm,
Recovering perfectionist, and I am leaning into accountability more and more each day. There's something about parenthood that really forces you to choose that option sometimes.
mm.
So you talk a lot about growth and healing. What's the difference in your eyes between accountability and perfection? And how can foster care survivors give themselves grace while still doing their own inner work?
So accountability and perfection are two entirely different things, first of all. For example, when setting a goal, perfection may be the goal, right? Accountability, on the other hand, is taking responsibility for how we pursue that goal and the outcome of that pursuit. When I was in foster care, I was conditioned to be perfect and made to believe something was wrong with me if I wasn't perfect enough or if I didn't do everything perfectly. Part of surviving the foster care system was learning and understanding why being forced into perfectionism was wrong, a form of oppression, and abusive. It was also against the teachings in my faith because only Jesus Christ is perfect and no human on this earth will ever be perfect. Thus, trying to be perfect for people when God doesn't even expect me to be perfect for him is a sin. I'm not trying to push my faith on other people, but other foster care survivors can give themselves some grace because God has already given us grace. People tell us we're not good enough. God doesn't. All we need to do to begin our own inner work is tell ourselves we are enough and believe it.
Girl, how do we? We have so much of a similar story. I was super religious, and I say that specifically because I'll explain it in a second when I was a teenager. And perfectionism was one of my coping mechanisms. It's one of my natural inclinations too, but it was definitely a coping mechanism. And I don't like to generalize or stereotype people, but I feel like in foster care, there's usually one of two large archetypes, right? And forgive my French, but y'all know I like to cuss. So the first is obvious. It's the fucked up foster kid. You just can't get right. You don't listen. You get in trouble.
Yep.
You're moved from place to placement. You run away. You do whatever the hell you want to do. And then there is the success child. There's the
Mm.
child who is quiet. They follow directions. They overachieve. They aim for perfection. So you don't really even have to try that hard to parent them. You don't even have to show up. As a social worker, you don't even have to call them because you know they're doing everything they need to do. And in fact, they're probably going to call you.
Mm.
Right. And so
They'll probably call you. That's
probably gonna
correct.
call you, right? Because that's how perfect and adultified and parentified they are, because they
Hmm.
acknowledge that if I try my hardest to be as invisible as possible by not needing anyone or anything, then I'll survive this. And not only will I survive, I might thrive because, yeah, I might get nice toys or I might get nice clothes. Or if I go to a really nice college, then maybe I'll get a good job. Jokes on us for those who
Hmm.
tried, right? But that's not it
Yeah.
there. But I feel
Yeah.
there's majorly those
Yeah.
two categories that people fall into with lived experience.
I wouldn't say fucked up foster child, right? Because at the end of the day, and that's one of the things I think that we've learned in the foster care system is that that's a problem. The reality of it is that like it's okay for kids to not be perfect. Like that's how we learn. That's
That's
how we
how kids
grow.
are. Kids are
We
imperfect.
have to be. We have to mess up. Like we have to make mistakes. Like that's a part of
Absolutely.
our
It's
brain.
developmentally appropriate. It is
So
a
being taught we're fucked up because we didn't pass this class or because we hate living here because we got in a fight with this other person, which is part of who we are as we're growing.
it's so wrong, but it's the label that's placed on us.
But
And
you're right. It's the label. Yep.
don't get me started on because listen, I'm a former educator
Yep.
too. Like, I could go into why it's developmentally appropriate for toddlers and teenagers to test boundaries. Do you know how
Yep.
often Jaden will look at me and touch
Mhm.
something that I asked him to not touch and do it again? And
And
then
watch you while he's doing it.
and watch me while I'm doing it, and I'm watching him like this is developmentally appropriate. Is it annoying behavior? Absolutely is, but it is also developmentally appropriate because it teaches them about life, it teaches them about
Yeah.
consequences and actions, and especially when they're teenagers, but also very much when they're toddlers, it helps them to understand how much you love them and how safe you are for them too. Because I can
Hmm.
do this thing that you asked me to not to do, and you're still going to
And
be
you
there for
still
me.
love
You're
me.
still going to love me. And that is appropriate behavior. And kids, too often, who are involved in the system, whether it be child welfare or not, don't have the opportunity to make those mistakes. But I would
Nope.
argue, I wish I would have fucked shit up a little bit more when I was a teenager because maybe I wouldn't have this chronic illness now because the body keeps score. And for all of us who were perfectionists, we chose that perfectionism
That
route
stress
over
on you.
we have a lot of physical ailments that are cropping up and popping up and have developed and that are expensive and time consuming and that slow us down. Whereas I feel like even within my own family, the kids who just went rogue and did whatever they wanted to do, they're physically a little bit more strong than the choices that I had to make in terms of like embodying everything quietly and silently and keeping it inside. And so I don't want there to be any confusion as to me thinking that kids who are labeled quote unquote that are a problem. They're they're first of all traumatized. And that trauma in itself leads to a lot of different adverse things. But secondly, a lot of those behaviors that label youth as such are the result of normal developmental experiences
Mm.
that are appropriate for them and becoming human beings in this world who are fully functioning and actualized. But we could have a whole series on how the institutionalization of the child welfare system is not designed for the healthy development of children and young adults.
Right, right. See, y'all don't see me shaking my head like when she's telling me this. I'm shaking my head. I feel for her because I understand how, like she said, the body keeps a score. And what she just said, you see her coming out. She's a perfect student. She's so articulate. She's so well dressed. Oh, you're in the foster care. Oh my gosh. Like, really? You're so awesome. Like, so basically, anybody who's not like her is not, right? But then she's also carrying all this weight on her that has now showed up in her adulthood. And this is exactly as she described the environment that I can say I was also in the foster care system. And
Mm.
it's not healthy. It's just not. And so I'm shaking my head like, thank you for saying all this. I hate that she went through that, but Thank you for saying that, because that's the abuse you don't see. Those are the scars you don't see on the inside.
It's not
Um,
sustainable. It is not sustainable. And I'm at a point now where it's like,
it's
I think
not.
I've broken up with that concept, right, of perfectionism, but other people have not. Other people still expect me to try to be perfect. And I'm like, no. First of all, I don't have the capacity I don't have that steam anymore. Okay. You just get extra tired.
And where are they when you're perfect, though? And then when you turn 30, what kind of support do you have then? Now you're too old to even be talking, right?
Okay.
Like, you're not a youth
20, wait,
anymore.
26 is actually the cutoff. Let's
Oh,
not.
is it? Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. And
Actually,
where
after
are
26,
they?
you might as well just die because no one gives a damn which way you came. Like, so if you have made it after the age of 26 and people are still listening, good luck to you. But in terms of the child welfare system and I guess your relevance and your, agency, yeah, people aren't really super concerned and there's definitely not a lot of support available, but the body does keep scoring. I know there's controversy around that book and that doctor specifically, but I do believe it to be true. I believe that our bodies hold trauma, not only just of our generation, but of the generations before. This is where I have to interject. I don't know if you know this, Lakievia, but I am a doula.
No,
And
I didn't know that.
yes, and I'm going to share a story really quick, and I've shared this before with our audience, but I'm going to reiterate it again. So, something I learned in my doula research and work is that when a woman is pregnant with a girl, she is not only caring for one generation, but she's holding two generations. Because as babies, we already have all of the little sacs that will become our eggs. And so we are born with them and they go with us throughout life. And so the trauma that our grandmothers experience impact our DNA as well, right?
I
So
knew
it's
that.
not just the things that I've experienced since being born in 1990. It's the things that my mother experienced when she was
Mm.
born in 1960. And it's the things that my grandmother experienced when she was born in 1927. That is a lot of trauma. And like I've said before, the experiences with KKK, experiences with
Mhm.
going off to war, experiences with poverty, with depression, with interpersonal violence, with systemic violence, mental and emotional health issues. And that's just one woman, right? Who knows what
Mm.
happened with my grandmother's grandmother? And so I say all that to say is like, this is really deep and trauma goes really, really deep.
Mhm.
And our bodies track that trauma. This is when the conversation of institutional and systemic oppression get really heavy because people like to say, well, you have jobs now and women could do things and Black people can do all the things, but we are still dealing with the remnants of when women couldn't do things. We are still dealing with the remnants of when Black people couldn't do things. It wasn't that long ago that Black people were hanging from trees. I want you to remember
Mhm.
that.
And the fact that we have to connect the dots to say, oh, but now you can do this. What you mean? Like, so I have to now reflect on the fact that there was a time when I couldn't.
But also, let's not talk about, even though I look like I'm 20 years old, I'm probably 20 years
You
older than someone
still
my age inside
right,
because of the
right.
economic impact of systemic racism and sexism.
Yep.
But there's a privilege to that. That's because I've been really intentional about how I take care of myself and putting myself in a position to take care of myself. I say all that to say is that there are epigenetic consequences to trauma and stress. And so when we are talking about this conversation of perfectionism versus kids who were quote unquote a little bit more difficult, it's not something that we need to blame the kids and the children
Mm-mm,
youth for. And it's something that we
mm,
redirect our attention to systemically and institutionally and ask
mhm,
ourselves, why do we put these children in the system to choose those options or to make those
mhm,
decisions that are not in their best outcomes? And how can we
mhm.
be better? Because ultimately the system, once it's taken children out of their home, has become their parents, and parents
Yeah.
do what is ever best for their children. Long story short, we've broken up with perfectionism, but we're still dealing with the consequences of it, and we're working on making it better for ourselves and those around us.
Mm.
We have a few more questions. So, purpose after pain. Freedom from foster care isn't just a nonprofit, it's a mission born from your story. What was the moment you knew your healing had a purpose beyond survival? And what impact are you hoping to make for the next generation of parents?
Yeah, like you said, when I saw there wasn't any help or support for parents in Georgia who were being criminalized and alienated from their children, including parents who had once been in the foster care system themselves, I knew I needed to step up to help make sure other parents didn't experience what I experienced. Through Freedom from Foster Care, a nonprofit organization, I hope to help the next generation of parents learn how to defend their right to parent in peace, show their communities they are good parents, protect their children from being targeted by the family separation industry, and end the cycle of generational foster care by keeping their children out of the foster care system.
Thank you so much. And I have to meet you next time I come to Atlanta. I don't know when that will be. But I just feel like there's such a likeness between our stories and we're just very aligned. I didn't realize until today's conversation how aligned we are in the work that we've chosen to take on and do in the hard that we're picking because building something from the ground up is not easy. And listen, raising babies is not easy. Oh my goodness. Raising children alone is very, very difficult. And so thank you for that work in advance that you're doing because there's going to be a lot of times when you do stuff for other people and they're not going to care. They're not going
Mm,
to recognize you. You're not going to get those grants that you spent hours researching and writing for. You're not going to get the support that you deserve. So just thank you in advance now for, again, recognizing the problem and being willing to create a solution behind it because that is just the biggest part. What you're doing is a really beautiful pinnacle of accountability and that again you acknowledge the need for something and you're also willing to step up and solve it even though this work is hard and it can sometimes feel overwhelming and difficult. I think for people who have struggled with perfectionism, getting started is one of the hardest steps. And so I just want to like continue to encourage not only you
mhm,
but for me too that like sometimes we just have to do and fix
mhm.
it later and perfect it, for lack of a better terms, later and make it better later. But sometimes just getting started is
Right.
like the most important step because there's no perfect way to go about building a business, whether it be for profit or nonprofit. And there's a lot
Nope.
of big stuff and little stuff that comes along with that. But again, it's about picking your hard. And you
Mm.
can talk about problems, but until you're willing to fix them, that's when you that's when the rubber really meets the ground. And so thank you in advance for all the beautiful stuff that you have done and will do with Freedom from Foster Care. All right,
Thank
one
you.
more question before your final questions. Systemic dreaming and legacy building. If you could redesign one part of the system to protect both children and their parents, especially those with lived experience, what would it be? And what legacy are you building for your daughters through this work?
If my parents were judges, they would not be allowed to adjudicate my cases because they'd be a conflict of interest, right? Yet, as a foster child or someone who was formerly in the foster care system, I was not given that separation, which resulted in an extremely traumatizing ordeal that lasted for 12 years and is still ongoing because of intentional harassment and retaliation. So, I would make it illegal for foster care survivors to have to go through the family courts in the counties where they were in foster care.
Mm.
And through this work, first and foremost, I am modeling good parenting and integrity for my daughters. I'm also teaching them how to stand up for themselves, their rights, and their children, should they have any. And then finally, I am showing them knowledge is power. And I am letting them know abuse in all of its forms will not be tolerated.
Thank you for sharing. Especially as a former educator, is that knowledge is truly power. I think that we're getting too far away from that here in America, but an educated child is a powerful child
Mm,
and a child who knows his or her rights, a child who knows the difference between right or wrong, not only just morally and ethically, but like in terms of the law,
mhm.
is a child who can be empowered to make the decisions that work best for them. And
And we don't have to be attorneys, y'all, to know the law and to
we
know our rights.
do.
Let me just tell you that. Don't let that stop you from learning how you can protect yourself. You can represent yourself in court always.
Absolutely. And don't go to ChatGPT for your law stuff either. I mean, it's a tool, but
Now there are some tools out there like Sentient. I have to just make that plug. I love it. Like it took me 15 hours to write my appellate brief by myself, and I knew my own stuff. I knew my case. I had to do all this research. With that, it did all this research for me. However, the difference between using these AI systems with knowledge and using them without is that you don't recognize what's wrong. So
that's the
you
key.
still need to be educated, and that's where that knowledge is your power.
That's the key. And then also reaching out to your foster care cousins. I always say who was in foster care. Y'all my cousin. Hey cousins. What does that mean? Sometimes you know your cousins and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're best friends with your cousins and sometimes you're not, right? But cousins we are nonetheless. And there's so many advocates all across this country in every single state and county who would be willing and who would love to be able to talk you through how they would handle or address whatever it is that they're experiencing and who have gone through things that you can benefit from learning from as well. And so
Ooh, on the foster care, Freedom from Foster Care website, you can go on there and look at the appellate records that I have, and I have all of my stuff listed there. I also have laws for know your rights and all this stuff, just because of what Ivory just said. Like
Yes, and
This
that
is
will
right
be
there.
linked in the show notes, and any other resources that Lakievia wants to share with you will be there as well. And you can follow her on her website and her social media, which will be shared there too. Now, I have three rogue questions for you. I did not let you know these questions in advance, but I asked them to everyone who comes on my podcast who has lived experience. Are you ready?
More SAT questions from you? Go ahead. Yeah.
No.
Those questions pierced the soul, y'all. I texted her. I was like, whoa, this just touched me. Like, I had to think on these. Hold on.
She's just like, wait a minute, this is too much. Give me some time. Like, okay, girl, just take the time that you need. I promise. And you kind of already touched on them too, but I do want to, just for consistency, ask them again and we can make it plain for the audience.
Okay.
So, what changes do you hope to see in the child welfare system in your lifetime?
You know what? To be honest with you, I just hope it won't even exist. I have to say, I hope it won't exist because, like, the abolishment movement right now is powerful.
Mhm.
Parents who have been shunned before are stepping up and saying so, and they're giving other parents the courage to do the same thing. And they're stepping up for people like me. Like, I didn't even have support, and those people are stepping up for me now to help me. So I hope it doesn't even exist in the future. So yeah, I just hope it doesn't exist because I really think that we have all the tools that we need to be able to take care of our own children. And I don't like that, I'm hearing stories of people who are now in their 20s saying the same stuff I said when I was 15, saying the same stuff Antoine Fisher said in his memoir on the day that he
Mm.
saw Martin Luther King or the day that he learned Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Like, we're saying the same stuff. So it's just like, why do we
Mhm.
have these same problems? Like, then it just needs to go away. That's what that needs to happen. So
And just for our listeners who might not understand the child welfare abolitionist movement, we're not saying to remove supports for children and families. What we are saying is to, instead of removing children from their homes, and there are some children who absolutely do need to be removed from their homes, but we don't need an entire system dedicated to that. And so instead
right.
of having the child welfare system that removes children from their families, let's put systems in place to support those families, whether it be a focus on physical and mental health and well being, whether it be the support of developing that emotional and relational intelligence so that people can be functional and healthy within the home that they are originally supposed to be in, and also giving them realistic resources. Instead of removing a child from a home because the parents can't pay for light or rent, it doesn't mean parent, it just means that they don't have the financial resources to show up in this capitalist society that was never designed to support their marginalized identities. Be so for real. And
And
so
you just put the kids in a place with a whole bunch of other kids, people they don't even know, just because their parents can't afford their light bill, and then turn around and give that person, this complete stranger,
more money.
$1,200 for this kid when you could have just gave that to the family and they could still be with their mom and their dad in their bed with their pets, their siblings, at their school with their clothes. I
Oppression is
hate it.
profitable. Oppression is profitable,
Yes.
and each child has money on their head, for lack of a better terms.
Yep.
No, I'm not objectifying these children. I'm saying it, making it plain. Children make
Mm-hmm.
America money.
Mm-hmm.
And each child, especially when they have these labels of having reactive attachment disorder, or when they're on psychiatric medications, they get more money for that. There's
That's a
money
fact.
in foster children
Even
being.
if there isn't anything wrong with the child, if they can get somebody to say that there is. So this is why so many people who are in the foster care system are like over medicated. I mean, they probably don't even need medication, but if you have them on medication, then you can connect it and say there's a problem or we need more money.
Oh,
So I mean, it's totally a business, girl. We
yes,
could go
yes.
on and on
Liz, don't get me started. But
all day.
this is why I'm not making more money in child welfare right now, I'm sure, because I talk too much and I'm too loud about this kind of stuff. But let's be realistic. These children are making people money, okay? And without these children, where
Mm-hmm.
do we come from? So I digress. Question number 2 of 3. Overall, what advice do you have for people with lived experience in general?
Listen to Ivory. Listen to this podcast, right? I mean, she's on to something here that I know when I was in the foster care system, we didn't have all this. So to her point again, like we have all these resources. We can learn anything we want to learn. Like listen to people who make you feel empowered, who make you feel important, who make you feel loved, and who make you feel like you matter. I mentioned God before. I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, but that doesn't mean that you have to. But what I will say is that there is a God. I ain't gonna preach on you, but there is. And but even if you don't believe that, like there's you, and you need to believe in yourself.
Mm, Thank you so much for that. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't really feel all that hyped up sometimes about this work. It is very difficult work to do, especially when you have lived experience and you're still working in the context of that lived experience. It just never ends. But thank you.
Mm,
And I hope that the work that I'm doing on this podcast and in publishing pieces like yourself, I want to uplift that. Read Lakievia's piece. And she should probably have more by the time this is released. But go on our website and read our writers because they all have lived experience and they all have really beautiful things that they want to share with their lived experiences and how we can be better practitioners of the child welfare system in whatever role that you hold. So thank you again. I really do appreciate that. And I have our last
you're welcome.
question before our time is done here today. But this is not the last time we'll have a conversation. This is not the last time you have to be on interviews. You can come back whenever you want.
Yay.
Thank you. I thank you for being willing to share your story and for being vulnerable and for trusting me to help you tell that story, not only here, but in your published op-ed too. And
Thank
so
you.
thank you for that. And thank you for being you.
Thank you. This is called Me and My Sister Don't Get Along. The op-ed that I published, it's called Me and My Sister Don't Get Along. So check that out. I will make a plug and say right now, she and I have a plan to go on a sister cruise. Well, hopefully that'll work out. But neither one of us have ever been out of the country. We've never been on a cruise. Like, she has 5 kids, and it's like she needs to get away from her kids, as you said, Ivory. So we are continuing to try to build, right? But that takes effort. And as you mentioned, Ivory, like that, we're accountable for that, right? If we want to have something, we got to go for it ourselves. So.
And I will say this, if you ever like want to hear kind of some of my story, I'm not going to tell my sister's stories. And I have a brother too. I'm not going to tell my siblings' stories, but I do have experience with having to rebuild after having lived experience. So if you're ever like, hey, I wonder what Ivory thinks about this or what she experienced, feel free to reach out to me because I get that. But yeah, so thank you so much. I hope that y'all have so much fun on your cruise.
Thanks.
It's going to be a wonderful time. I will make this plug again. I know y'all are tired of hearing me talk at this point. I'm going to make this plug for traveling for people who have lived experience. I think there's something really healing about leaving where you're from and seeing how other people live and just experiencing a place where you don't have a whole bunch of trauma.
And it's humanizing. It makes us know we're humans who matter.
Too, because especially when you go to the country and if you go to, for lack of a better terms, a second or a third world country, you can just that even on your darkest days, you've had it better than a lot of other people in the world. And so it gives you perspective. It gives you joy. It gives you so many things that you can't get by staying in your zip code. So that is my plug. I'll leave it there. All right. Our final question for the day. Okay. So, Lakievia, who are you without the trauma of child welfare?
Oh, anything I want to be. I mean, at the end of the day, anything, like,
And that is such a beautiful perspective because some people with lived experience, they can't even see past the day that it is.
No.
And so for you to
we've been conditioned that way. We've been conditioned to wait until we turn 18. Like every single day, it's just wait till I turn 18. Like I can go.
21.
Right. We're 21. We're 26.
Yep. We're 26. Yep. They might as well fall off a cliff after 20.
Right. So that is, So without that, that's trauma in and of itself. Look, I'm anybody, I'm everything, I'm everyone, and I can do whatever I want to do. And I do.
And future Dr. Johnson, I can't wait to celebrate you. That is going to be so exciting. And I will be reaching out when I start my doctoral studies.
Yes.
Yes, I can't wait. So thank you so much for this was a really joyful experience. And like I said, I need as much joy as I can get in the context of this work because it is not easy, and I'll leave it at that. But thank y'all also for tuning in and to listening one more time to InnerViews and my guest today, Lakievia. We hope you back. And if you know anyone who you would like to hear talk with me on InnerViews, please do feel free to reach out and connect. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Bye.
The InnerViews podcast is a production of the Safe Camp Audio Network, which is a division of Youth Voices Rising via Fostering Media Connections. Please visit safecampaudio.org on the web or Safe Camp Audio on all major social media. This podcast was produced and mixed by Christine Onjoko. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you consider sharing, subscribing, and or giving us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcast.